Alright guys, so today I wanted to do a review slash looking through the Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 1, and I will be doing a Volume 2 shortly after this because I kind of read these back to back, and let me just tell you, I don't usually do that for omnibuses because they are huge, and this one alone is over 900 pages. So for me to do that back to back has to be a pretty great series. But I really want to talk about Moon Knight 1 first because you got to get this to really understand and know what's happening in Moon Knight Volume 2. But this is the 80s or late 70s to early 80s Moon Knight stories. And we're going to talk about why this is such an interesting series for me as someone who doesn't really like comics predating pretty much the 80s. 70s is not really my jam, 60s definitely not, just because of the dialogue and things like that. However, I feel like Moon Knight is a huge exception to that, and I'm going to get to the reasons why in this review. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so to start off, as we're looking through this book, one of the major things you're going to notice is that the actual series for Moon Knight, like Moon Knight issue 1, does not start till about halfway through this omnibus. So you're thinking, well, does the rest suck till then? Actually, no. Some of the best stuff comes before the Moon Knight series. So let's get into it. The start is very much okay. The origin of Moon Knight, or I should say the first appearance of Moon Knight, is actually not in his own series, but in the werewolf series. Now, I don't know this character. He's just a dude who becomes a werewolf. I'm sure other people are like, how dare you not know this character? I do not. Anyway, it's just a guy who becomes a werewolf, and I guess he's some type of hero in a way because he can't control himself, kind of like the Hulk. And Moon Knight is hired by a bunch of these people to basically kidnap him and then sell him to them to use. So the beginning's okay, and Moon Knight comes off as a villain, but more of a mercenary to hire, kind of like Deathstroke, but not as big a piece of shit as that guy is. And that's how it all starts. That's how we get Moon Knight, that mysterious dude in all white that unfortunately kind of has like a KKK look to him at first, but it is a good origin because this is who Moon Knight is. He gets shit done. He's a mercenary. He knows what to do. He knows he's on a mission to do it. But after that, we start to really get to know Moon Knight. Now, most of my negatives are actually going to come right after the origin or the first appearance of Moon Knight is these Defender series. Moon Knight is just not all that interesting here. He kind of just pops up and does his own thing. People consider him a hero now, somewhat. And yeah, these issues kind of are just okay. They're not horrible, but they're like very run-of-the-mill. You read in the 70s type of comic, you enjoyed it, and then put it away and never thought about it again. So these issues I got through, okay, it was kind of a slow read for me, but I was okay reading them, and the art was, what it was. However, soon after we get through the Defenders and the Spotlight and the team-up issues, we get to the Hulk magazine issues. Now, I don't know what this is. I don't know if this was a magazine. Well, obviously, it was a magazine published in the late 70s. And it was, I guess, featuring the Hulk. He was such a popular character then. And they had, like, these issues in them that contained characters that probably weren't prominent in the Marvel Force. So Moon Knight would be a good example of a character probably back then who didn't really have much spotlight. And Doug and Bill really got to kind of spread their wings here and introduce you to Moon Knight. But there's one story in here that to me contains one of the best Moon Knight stories, and it's a horrific tale of the Hatchet Killer, who's the brother of Moon Knight. And I never even knew Moon Knight had a brother. So that was a really nice, interesting twist. And this story is both horrifying, it has that slasher feel, and it definitely feels a lot more mature than it should be in the late 70s. So I gotta say, this one really just blew me away in terms of an emotional gut punch and the after issues, but also just a horrific feel of the series right there. So finally, in the second half of the book, we get to the main Moon Knight series, and it's the first 20 issues, and it is solid. And we get a single writer-artist combo, which is Bill and Doug, and I'm not going to pronounce their last names because I'm just going to butcher it. But these are two famous writers in the 70s and 80s. I'm going to put their name down there. You can see it on the cover. I'm not going to butcher those names. I am so sorry if you guys are watching, but these guys are a great combo. This is one of my favorite Moon Knight combos in terms of a writer-artist because they really get the character. And I also really enjoyed the kind of early adventures of Mark switching between Stephen Grant and his other personalities to tackle missions that he's on. So what's really cool about this is that we don't really get the whole split personality. It's just him dressing up as other people to do missions, but it starts feeling like he's having split personalities people are calling him a schizo by the end, and you know, this is the 80s, so mental health wasn't really talked about, but it really worked well. And some of these stories are great, from like violent killers he has to stop, to a mystical group of warriors, a ghost in a home that won't leave, or even a racist son of a bitch who's dressed up as a rat that actually somehow rings true to today. Anyway, what I'm saying is that this series, or this book, this omnibus, does have some cheesy stuff in the beginning and a little bit of a slow burn when Moon Knight isn't really the main focus and he's just joining other people's books. But by the end, I absolutely was having a blast reading the series. I was so into it. I read like 12 issues at one night, and I just couldn't get enough. And I loved it so much, I bought volume 2 literally the day it came out, and I'm going to review that next. But for this one, should you pick this up, I very much think so. Now, listen, this is older. The dialogue is outdated at points, but this is a great series. If you want a little bit darker series from the 70s and 80s than you would probably, you know, expect, but it also has that cheesiness that I actually loved, and Moon Knight actually grew on me. He's now one of these characters I actually invested in and liked more than some of the modern comic runs that I read later on. So anyway, this is great. It's not perfect, but it's great. It's a blast to read, and I very much recommend this. And I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 because I think it is that good, save for a couple of Defender issues. Go pick this one up right now.